with some extremely impressive projects and folks. Carol Shelby, Jim Fueling, names we're all very familiar with. Kind of, you cut your eye teeth on some of the mechanics as they're teaching you the rules of the road, so to speak. He's now got a Super Performance dealer, which manufactures South African, imported from South Africa. He puts them together to the customers' likes and wishes. Been doing some fantastic milestones, 223 miles per hour in a Cobra. So, and you see, you still got your hair. 223 would have taken all of my hair off. So let me introduce you, Ted Taormina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for lunch. It's always good to hang out with a bunch of fellow car guys, you know, because we all have something in common, and it's always fun to share the stories and stories you hear, stories you learn about, ask questions, and you never know what kind of answer you're going to get. And the good news is that sometimes it helps you out in the end. It's a lot of fun. So I appreciate having everybody being part of this and sharing the passion that I have for cars. It's a lot of fun. So how did I get started in this? I was 18 years old and I worked on my uncle's Ferrari 365 GTC4, and that half of the V12 went in line with the Datsun 240Z that I had. The firing order was the same. I had 3 Webers on one side, so when he brought me his car, the firing order for the Ferrari, the firing order for the Datsun was the same, so I was able to repair his car, make it run good, make it run smooth. And when he took it for some body work to a guy in Gilroy named Albertoni, he said, "Hey, my nephew worked on this car. He's only 18. You know, maybe might want to check out and make sure he did a pretty good job." So he called my uncle back and said, "Who'd you say worked on the car?" And he said, "Oh, it was my nephew." And he introduced me to Albertoni. And 24 years later, I was involved with nothing but exotic cars. We were bringing them from Italy to the United States, converting these cars from gray market to USA cars, and making them pass smog, reverse engineer all the emissions, if there were any, and make them pass smog in California, do the safety bars, add ugly bumpers and things like that. So that's how I got involved with it. And one of his best friends was Jim Fueling, who had a huge passion for the Bonneville salt flats. And that's how I got hooked. Jim Fueling would go to the salt flats and he would borrow me. I was a little gopher kid with a lot of hair and a lot of love for cars. So we went to the Bonneville salt flats several times, and that's how I got hooked on going fast. So that's how I got started at going fast. I worked with Jim Fueling, and we would test run the cars out there on the salt flats. And if we were testing for alignment, testing for wheel balancing, or anything like that, he'd stick me in the car and he'd send me down the runway, 5 miles straight. And I'd come back and I said, "Yeah, it was okay." And he said, "Well, how fast did you go?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I think I went about 115." He goes, "Well, that's not enough." And they jokingly would send me out there, and I was just trying to do my job. I got hooked on the salt flats, and that's where it all began. So as a youngster, my favorite car was a Cobra, probably the same for a lot of you. And I decided when I opened my own shop, I was going to build the world's fastest Shelby. So I got underway going with that. So the car in that picture there was my attempt. That was the last attempt. So changing the aerodynamics, talking to the guys about getting a brick in the wind doesn't take just power, but it takes stability. And that's where running out of the salt flats, doing some wind tunnel testing with Lamborghini Countachs, Oldsmobile Calais, and Streamliners, I learned how to change the aerodynamic characteristics of the car, even if it was square. So what I started doing was figuring out how I was going to make that car stay stable at high speed. And of course, the only way to make it stay stable is to give it some downforce for starters. And of course, try and clean up some of the edges, get rid of the windshield because that's causing a lot of turbulence. and start there. And as I got going faster and faster on the roads, the car in the back just simply wanted to lift. And the only way you can get an air spoiler on the back of that thing is plant a big wing on the back, which will slow you down significantly. It'll also put too much downforce on the back of the car as well, and it's too much work. It's probably stand 15 inches off the trunk to make it work right. So I decided to build a spoiler underneath the car. So I went underneath the Cobra and sealed up the whole bottom of the chassis with aluminum. And then I dropped a spoiler about 3 inches below that, and I was catching all the wind underneath the car. So from the driver's seat to the back of the car is a downforce wing, and then the little fins you see there, which is kind of hard to see in this picture, the fins you see there are the diffuser. So when I did that, I went out and drove the car. It was unbelievably stable. It was amazing. So moving forward from that, I had to keep the front down also because it seemed like the front was being pushed left, pushed right. So I used the old technique you can see on the front of that car. I've got little canards in the front. And surprisingly, by removing the windshield and adding those canards, it kept the front stable. It didn't want to push left and right. It just wanted to push down. So that was the next thing. To the left of that, you'll see Dick Smith's car. He ran that out at Daytona. And he did it with a windshield, which really surprises me because having a windshield on that car at 198 is something I would never do, even though I probably thought about it. But yeah, that was an amazing run for him, and that's a true CSX car, aluminum bodied CSX chassis. I ran my car with a Superformance chassis, which everything is measurement-wise is identical to the original Shelby, except for the suspension and the upper and lower control arms, the frame layout. I think the original Shelby chassis is a lot stiffer than the Superformance chassis, and easier to add and make suspension changes to it. So the lower one is the first time I went out to the Mojave Air and Spaceport. My first trip out running, a high-speed run. It's amazing how much you learn. My first trip out there, not only did I realize that the car wasn't as stable as I thought it was on the runway, I had 1.5 miles to go, and the fastest I could get that car was about 173 miles an hour. And after learning, it just felt like I was losing power in my top gear. So after learning that, I went to a dyno and dynoed the engine, and the engine made the power it's supposed to make. It was 670 horsepower, and but I didn't know why I wasn't going any faster. It didn't make sense to me. So what we learned was I had to run the engine on the chassis dyno. I had to run it for about 25 seconds, which is a really long time on a dyno. The dyno will start to overheat. But the problem was that the large fuel pump I had in the back wasn't bringing enough fuel from the gas tank to the engine. So at around 170 miles an hour, I was starting to run out of fuel. Even though I was still running, it was only running as fast as the pump could pump it, and that was it. The float bowls would go down. I'd shut the engine off, pull the spark plugs, and they were ghost white. I mean, I'm like, I'm running out of gas. So 2 fuel pumps for each bank of the engine solved the problem there. And then I went back and I started getting closer, and then I ran 191, started playing with the timing, tire pressure, and I was able to go 201 that day, which was my 3rd attempt. So there's 3 runs out to the Mojave Air and Spaceport to get the car just over 200. Following that was, I said, okay, now that I'm on the right track, I think I'm going to pull the engine out and give it some more power. And that's what I did. Oh, that's too much. So once I gave the engine more power, and I put the helmet diffuser on the back. The other struggle I had was not only the air coming into the passenger side of the engine, which I ended up covering the passenger side. The helmet diffuser, my helmet was buffering so much at high speed that I couldn't see. My eyes were it was blurry. It was really bad. Now when you're going at they call it desert blindness. When you're going so fast and you're looking for the finish line and your helmet's shaking, you don't know if you've already passed it or not. And some guys just keep on going. And they keep on looking for the flag. And it's really, 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 really bad. It's not a good thing. So anyways, after making those changes, I decided that I needed more pavement. So the Sun Valley Tour de Force people, they called me up and they said, hey, we'll give you 1.7 miles to accelerate and a mile to shut down. So I said, okay, I think I'll take that instead of a mile and a half. So going out to Sun Valley Tour de Force, they shut down the freeway for charity. There's a long road. The first half mile is a slight bend to the left, and once you make that bend, it's straight flat out. And I was able to go 194 my first pass because the turn ahead of me looked a lot sharper than it was at 150 miles an hour. So I was talking to a few of the guys that have run out there many times, and they said, look, the turn that you're seeing ahead of you isn't as bad as you think. If you want another 20 miles an hour, you're gonna have to do it before the turn, not after the turn. My second pass, I found the speed in the turn, and I realized it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And I was coming out of the turn at 165 miles an hour instead of 130 miles an hour. And then that's when I ran 223 at 6,000 feet above sea level too. I dropped a few fuel jet changes for the thin air. The thin air was costing me horsepower, but also it wasn't as resistant against the car either. After doing that, of course, I'm hooked on going fast in a Cobra, and I enjoy building the cars. As he was saying, I've built over 130 different Cobras for customers. Some CSX continuation cars, and some are super performance cars. I've done the GT40s, and I've done the Daytonas, and they're all really fun to me. And it's fun because you can custom build them. When I'm doing a custom Ferrari for somebody, it's I don't get quite the freedom as I would like to, because a lot of these guys like to keep them original, keep them valuable. So I decided that I'm going to try and go reach a new milestone with a Cobra, and I decided to start altering the shape of the front end to drop some of the coefficient drag. Now, the technology we have today gives us the opportunity to build something on the computer and do a drag simulation on it by a computer generated one. Now, of course, it doesn't add in all the elements of wind, crosswind, in some places, bird strikes and things like that. But it does give me an idea from where I originally was in the short front end and the very square front end to a more aero front end like you see on the model in front of you. So this is where I started. I started a little bit like the Ferrari kind of thing, the pontoon fenders, thinking that would round things up, but I didn't like what that did on the simulator at all. It was awful, actually. So moving forward, I started sharpening the nose. I decided I was going to run Cadillac style headlights, and then arrowed out the front end a little bit. And then the front circular area that's for the radiator, I had so much wind coming into the front of the car, it wasn't getting out of the car. So I tried to utilize some of the airflow in that and helping me keep the car pushed down and get the air out. So that's why you see the large vents on the side. Too much air coming in, not enough air getting out, and you create this positive air pocket. And you create an interesting kind of buffering at about 210 miles an hour. So this is where we're going with it. Also, not only do I have the undercar spoiler, I decided to come up with a very mild ducktail type of fin. So I made a new trunk to make that part. And then the new fenders, I just have to remove the top sections and fiberglass those in to get them sharper and more aero, and then I've created an air splitter at the bottom to get the wind off and around the car. So this is what it looks like when you're doing computer generated renderings of a car. To get to this point, you have to scan an original Cobra. So once you do that, you scan the car and it's accurate within a millimeter, you're able to create an identical part. So for example, if you're making a helmet diffuser like the green part because of the shape of the car, that part you can generate with a proper scan and it'll fit the car perfectly. You don't have a whole lot of grinding and fiberglassing and bondoing and do that. The other parts are the spoiler is the lower right corner. That's the spoiler diffuser in the back under the car. And then the other pieces are individual splitter pieces for the front end that go into the front to push the air around the car and not get any lift into the front whatsoever if you have a gust of wind or something like that. So that's what the car is going to look like. Looking at it there, and that's an exact quarter scale of what the original car will be. And we've already gone through measurements and things like that, so we've already made what we call the buck part of these body parts. And the buck is just a solid piece, and then you build a mold around that so you can lay fiberglass. In fact, I can build this whole body in carbon fiber if I wanted. That's the Lamborghini Countach we ran out the bottom of the salt flats. Man, it had a lot of hair back then. So that car ran 201 miles an hour, which was the fastest Lamborghini Countach in the world recorded, and I believe it still is to this day. And a lot of those guys aren't with us anymore, but maybe some of you guys know the guy on the far right with the cowboy hat, Miles Kitchen. You guys know him? He's a good old Ferrari guy. He was there with us, super great guy. We built his little Lotus Cortina, which was a lot of fun. Anyway, that's those are the old Bonneville days. I believe that was about 1992 right there, if I remember. Maybe 91, can't remember. Anyways, so right now with the new car, my goal is 230 miles an hour or more. The engine that's going to go in it is a 500 cubic inch 427. It should turn about 8,500 RPM, and I think that'll get me down there. The good news at the Bonneville Salt Flats, you get 5 miles of acceleration. The hard or difficult thing is building a proper cage for it to be NHRA approved. So the safety side of it will be a full cage that'll be removable. And then also they require me to put a 700-pound steel plate underneath the car to keep it stable. So they said, look, we're not doing 0 to 60 times out here. You got 5 miles of acceleration. It's not about weight, so we don't want that thing. We don't want that car taken off in the air at any point. So I built a solid plate for underneath that bolts to the bottom of the car, and then cover the passenger side, and then and bring in the power. And that's the other thing. The gearing in the back is something I'm playing with a little bit. So it'll probably have a 390 gears in the differential. It'll have a 5-speed transmission, and with at 7,500 RPM, I should hit my 230 number. Should, theoretically, right? So that's what it comes to on paper.
How many horsepower?
What's that?
What's your horsepower?
The torque on that will be 780 foot-pounds of torque and probably 820 horsepower. So it'll turn a lot of RPM, and that's kind of the key I've learned at Bonneville. You know, it's not about how many gears you have. Most of the guys out there will run a pretty tall gear and only 4 speeds. It's all about RPM out there, believe it or not. It's the RPM that really gets you up to speed out there. And so that's why the original engine I ran 223, and that engine revved to 7,200. This will run to 8,500. So we'll see, but I'll do it with 5 gears. Out at Mojave, or not Mojave, it's NASA Kennedy Space Center. I ran out there and we had some crosswinds, and when I shifted into from 5th gear to 6th gear, the RPM needle just didn't move. It just stuck there at 5,800 RPM. It just would not go, and it seemed like it was just, that was what we call the wall. So that was 25-mile-an-hour headwinds, and I was only at 204 miles an hour, so it made quite a difference with that kind of wind. And running out of Kennedy, that was another thing. The alligators will come out and sit in the runway to warm up. So during our driver meeting, they said, if you see a black thing in the road, don't hit it. It's not a shadow, it's an alligator warming up. So it wasn't very comfort feeling, you know, because you know the Kennedy's landing strip's a little over 3 miles long. So it's 3 feet of concrete, not asphalt. 3 feet thick of concrete, 3 miles long. So it's called, they call it the NASA lake, because you're looking so far ahead, it just looks like a lake. It's like a mirage. And if you see a black spot out there, which we did, I didn't, but there was one out there, they sent a guy out there in a golf cart and chase the alligator off the runway because he was out there trying to warm up. Not things you want going through your head while you're running that fast. You're worried about wind and how the car feels and everything. Now you got to think about bird strikes and alligators in the runway. And anyway, that's it. So glad to share my passion with you guys, and you know, I'm looking forward to getting this car going and and you'll see it around, you'll see it locally. I'll be driving it around. It'll be streetable, drivable, so I'll bring it to various different shows and have fun with it. That's the whole idea. That's why we do it. Part of why we do it. Yes.
Which Bonneville are you shooting for to get the record?
Not this year, but next year. So 27, Bonneville 2027 speed.
Are you helping save the salt out there?
I do donate to that. It's deteriorating quickly. It's a real bummer because I have so much history there just growing up, you know, so, I hope, you know, salt's been canceled a few times, the speed runs out there. Yes?
Didn't you tell some stories a while back about you testing that thing out on the San Mateo Bridge late at night?
Anybody here an officer of law?
Retired.
Yeah, so, sometimes late at night, I would go out and do some aero testing at about 3 in the morning, and that would take me, I would have to wait for one car to pass and wait about 50 seconds for another car to come in. I knew I had the space and the distance to do what I needed to do to check something, but yeah, I'd stuck GoPro cameras on the fenders to see how far the downforce of the car was happening while I was driving it. And that's how I was able to adjust the rear wing and the spoiler underneath the car and take some of the angle out of it because it was pulling the fender past the rim. And I'm like, wow, that's way too much downforce. And that was only at 160, 170 miles an hour. So once I got it dialed in pretty good, it only takes me about a mile to hit 200 miles an hour at zero. So if I'm on the freeway and I'm doing about 60, I need maybe half a mile just to get up to 200.
Did the segments and the concrete affect you? Did you feel that?
From traveling from east to west, that's not the good side. Going from west to east, much smoother. I don't know why, but going from east to west, it almost feels like you're galloping on a horse, and I hate that feeling. That's not good. So, but coming the other direction was pretty good. I'd come just down the hill, and by the time I hit the bottom of a part where the bridge is really flat, I was probably at 170 already. So by the time I got halfway through the bridge, needle was sweeping past 205, and I'm like, that's enough. So, it feels good. So, yes. For a lot of the lighter cars, they're requiring weight. So a lot of guys will just put weight on the floor of the car inside. Has to be strapped down. It can't be just floating around, but they will put weight in the car. So they'll put, you have a 210-pound driver, and they'll add weight on the other side and even it out. So they do even out the drivers out there. They recommend it. And then the lighter cars like Mazda Miatas, some of the 32 Roadsters that go over 200, they have double weight.
Well, the reason I asked is there was a fellow, his name was Casey, but he was running his
Yeah.
for years and years, he kept tweaking it to get faster and faster. And a couple of years ago, it was both a fast car flipped over.
Yeah, that's what they don't want to happen. So that's the thing about the salt. The salt surface isn't that stable. It's not like asphalt. I much prefer asphalt. But running out of the salt, it's not a real stable surface. So it's not about tire adhesion or anything out there. It's just about keeping it straight. So I've seen a lot of cars run at the dry lake beds out in Mojave, and all that powdery dirt gets the car to slightly float, and it just starts moving around. And if there's anything weird about the aero, about it keeping straight, that's why on the tops of those fenders you see those little rails on top. Those keep you directional, because if the car starts to want to move, they're going to keep you more straight. They're supposed to help. A lot of the NASCARs, you'll see that same type of trim on the roof of the car that stands a little bit tall, because once they start to move, the wind will push them a little bit more straight. But once they get sideways, too sideways, you'll see that NASCARs they just take off. They literally take off. You had a question back there in the back. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned running without a windshield at those speeds. how is that with the wind hitting you directly in the face? Do you have anything that
Well, I mean, I have a
supports
helmet
your-
on, yes, yes,
But
for
is
sure.
there anything that supports that helmet, that supports your head while you're doing that?
No, no, he asked about, wearing a helmet at high speed with no windshield, how does the force on the helmet feel? Feels terrible. I mean, it feels like I'm driving my car out of an airplane and just dropping, but, you know, motorcycle guys doing stuff like that at around 200, it's possible, but yeah, I've got a neck brace, you know, a Hansa Weiss also, that helps, but yeah, I'll get a sore neck, for sure, yeah.
Did you study physics or aerodynamics when you were in high school?
Not in high school, but when I was going to the Bonneville Salt Flats with these guys, we were doing wind tunnel testing, and my boss sent me to an aeronautics class, kind of a aeronautics 101, to learn about what the air does, what hot air does, what cold air does. It changes a lot. So, and seeing some of the technology with a lot of the Ferraris that you guys have and Lamborghinis, they utilize all of the air coming through the car. Some use it for downforce, some are forcing them into areas where they really need cooling. And the air travel technology through the new bodies and cars these days is amazing. It's really amazing. And they also make them very quiet. They're directing the wind in areas where we don't hear it. So that's really neat. So I just did like an aeronautics, kind of a 101 class. We built a little model, and you know, we put it in a little miniature wind tunnel and watched what the car did under certain things, and yeah, we played around with it, and you learn. And one of the tips that got me under the undercar spoiler was the 95, 96 Ferrari 456. In the back of that car, that Ferrari does not have a tail or anything, and it's a 185 mile an hour car. So the way they did it was, at 80 miles an hour, there's a wing in between the two muffler tips in the back of a 456 that drops down below the car and keeps the back stable at high speed. So that's where I got the idea of putting it underneath. Mine's permanent, that one just drops at 80. So sometimes customers will come in and say, oh, you know, I got my spoiler light on. And he goes, I don't have a spoiler. You do, it's under the car. So yeah, yes.
Yeah, you said you worked on high performance Ferraris. Have you ever done any testing on an 87 Testarossa? Ferrari says it will do 189, 190, okay, according to Ferrari. Have you ever run any one of those Ferraris on a salt flats?
I've never ran a Testarossa on the salt flats, but I have been on I-5 going to LA in one, and but it was a 512 TR.
512, yeah.
So it's the next generation.
Yeah.
The car did pretty good, but we peaked out at about 186 in that car.
Okay.
So the 85 TR, 86 TR, which is I think it's about 75 horsepower less and less torque. I'd be surprised if it ever got that fast. I think it'll hit 170, 175. It's really interesting, you know, as you're traveling at high speed, the pushback on the wind is so much more than you think, that once the car starts hitting 150, that curve starts to go up, and when you start getting to the higher speed, it's straight up. It's a wall.
It does have the big fenders, right? Which tends
Oh
to
yeah,
keep
no,
it-
those are great.
And
Yeah.
the front windshield's pretty sleek.
It's raked down really nice. The car was, the 512 TR was very stable. I was really excited about how good it felt. And I've had 599s over 200.
Wow.
I've had F12s over 200, and you know, I gotta say, even the old Murcielago Lamborghinis, they get up to 200 also. The technology in some of these supercars today is far more than most of the drivers. And but the cars are surprisingly stable. I feel very comfortable in a 599 running 200. I'm good with that. Really. I did not wind test that. We just did it on a computer-generated version of it. It's a program, so that we set up to aero, and you can actually. actually watch wind travel and everything, yeah.
What's the security outlook? Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? 'Cause I know that the security outlook is metal. Is it metal or is it? '
That's made of surfboard foam, so you can primer it real heavy and then paint it. No, it's not light, it's surprisingly heavy. Surfboard foam is very dense, and you know, we use it so you can sand it, prime it, check the reflections and the proportions and things like that. But it's made of surfboard foam, and it's done on a computer. You can send the file to someone who's got a big 5-axis printer, and that machine comes down and mills the whole thing out of a solid piece of styrofoam, and that's basically $1. And then when I made, some of you might be familiar with the Cobra that I built, that I put an Enzo V12 in it, and I changed the front end to like a 250 Testarossa. So we made a full buck front end for it, and then made the mold around that. So, and then I took from the windshield forward and made it look like a 59 Testarossa. I put an Enzo V12 in it, and I put 6 carburetors down the middle, and I really like that car. It's a fun car. So,
Could you
yeah.
talk about tires as a controlling factor in high-speed driving at 150 or 200?
Yeah, you need tires that are qualified. I think the highest, the only tires I could find available to go fast enough are the Y. You'll see the side of your tire, it says there's a Y rating on it in parentheses. That means it's a 186 plus tire, that built for speed. So that's a safe enough tire. Speed ratings on tires are tested at speed for 24 hours. So if you have a speed rating on a tire that's 100 miles an hour, say it's a Z-rated tire, it's rated at 150 miles an hour, they give it that rating and they run that tire to 150 for 24 hours. So when you're doing accelerations, up to 200 and come back down, the tire should not distort that bad. When you run a Bonneville tire, the construction on a Bonneville salt tire is significantly more intense and more expensive. Those are tested at 220 miles an hour for 24 hours. But some of those guys are still hitting close to 300 on one of those tires, and they're not getting distortions. They always say, after about 3 passes, just change the tire out, even if it looks good. Just change it out. Sure. Yes. Rob. When I broke the record in my car, I ran 48 pounds. That's it. I said, we don't want to see anything over 50. Not put more than 50 pounds there. So I made them, not as soft for sure, but yeah, that helped. It gave me about 4 more miles an hour going from 35 pounds to 48 pounds. Yeah, it made a difference. Well, the tires are 335s in the back, so they're significantly wide. And that's going to slow you down. That tire patch is going to be very resistant to speed. So a lot of the Bonneville guys use a more rounded, thinner tire for the salt flats, because they don't need that kind of resistance. And with the unstable surface, that'll get you floating around a lot sooner with a wide tire. So they don't want you running wide tires. Yeah.
Hey Ted, can you tell us a little bit about your shop? What are the services you provide? What do you do there?
So I fix, repair, restore, service Ferraris and Lamborghinis. That's mostly my background. The Cobra thing was just something that just came from passion, and I ended up being a lot of my business. I do some restorations. Some restorations are cheaper, sent out to Italy and then brought back and finished up by me. But we do a lot of things that a lot of people don't want to do. So I'm not afraid to take on a job. If I can organize it and run it through the shop at a smooth pace, yeah, I work on almost anything. But I do a lot of Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Cobras, Shelbys. I do Rolls Royces. I do Bentleys. Not full parking lot of those cars, but yeah, I service them all. All my guys are pretty well versed. They came from other places, from Ferrari Silicon Valley, Mercedes-Benz. I was at Los Gatos Luxury Cars for a bit, for a few years. I went to the Rolls-Royce school, Bentley school, and it's all Volkswagen stuff for them, and all the Rolls-Royce stuff's BMW. So my guys are BMW, Mercedes, so they adapt to it pretty well. And I've got all the computers that communicate with those cars, so it's not bad. They all got pistons, they all got tires, they all got timing chains, pretty much the same. Yes.
Interesting interesting story, with no disrespect, before your time. 1965, my friend bought a Sunny Tiger,
Yeah.
$3,600 from S&C Ford in Van Ness Avenue.
Oh,
Right
nice.
next to it was a 289 Cobra. I think it was $4,300 for a 289 Cobra. And I said, why didn't your mom give the extra $600 or $700? Well, the rest is history, right? A 289
Sure.
Cobra at S&C Ford for like $4,300.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Tiger was a neat car. I mean, it didn't take off as like the Cobra did. But, you know, the personality of a car is what excites me. You know, it doesn't have to be 800-900 horsepower or anything. It's like whatever I'm driving. I mean, I could get in an old '69 Alfa Romeo and just go have an absolute blast. You know, and it's just a little 1700 cc engine. You know, it's fun. So it's about the driving emotion experience that you get as you're driving the car. I think that's where it all comes from. There's always a faster car around the corner somewhere. Somebody making more horsepower somehow, and it's always good to have a challenge like that. But I think that the driver emotion, whatever car gives you the most satisfying drive, is what it's about for me. So it's a lot of people will talk about their old Datsun 240Zs, their old Corvettes, or their old Ferraris, and you know, you just see their face light up because they just enjoy driving it so much. And I get it. I get it. No such thing as a favorite car. My favorite car is my next car. Yeah.
I would say you look like you're about 50, so, what's on the horizon for the next 10 years?
Once I run that car, I think I'm gonna probably focus on, making some different types of cars. There's, a few connections I have. Some of you may have heard of guys in Argentina and stuff like that. They're building these beautiful aluminum replicas of, SLR Mercedes. I was just showing Ben, an old SS, a 1957 SS Corvette that Arcus Duntov did a year ago as a concept car. There's one running around somewhere in the collector's areas, but we're building a replica of that in aluminum. Those cars were built on 300 SL chassis. So these guys in Argentina, they're just amazing craftsmen, but when it comes down to suspension and engines, they don't have the ability to get what we can here. So I want to build the car there, paint it and everything, upholstery, and then just bring it home and finish it here. I'd like to get involved in doing some of those. Thanks, I'm not 50, I'll be 60 this August, so thanks for that. But I probably won't, I'll probably slow down at about 65 from going fast. But I think I'll hit my goal in that Cobra pretty soon. And I'll probably slow down. I promised my mom I would consider it, so. She's still around. Yes.
This is a comment, not a question, but, the guy that, drove, Gyro on the Salt, he said that you have to be a little insane to do this.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple times.
I see that you picked up some of the insanity from the need for speed out there, but,
Yeah.
it really, he said that all of the Formula One race car drivers are in awe of the guys that drive on the Salt.
Yeah, I've gotten that. I've met a few drivers, and you know, as people that are driving fast and stuff like that, or have passion for cars, you know, there's always a very nice common level of respect for each other and what they do. You know, because there's such a level of talent when those guys run Formula One, when they run Indy cars, you know, NASCAR, all that. These guys run at 8, 9, and 10,000 horsepower dragsters. I mean, the human body, I've thought about it. I'm like, how is the human body capable of going from 0 to 300 in 3.5 seconds and not break down? I mean, it's unbelievable. That inertia is just hard to comprehend. I still can't get my arms out. I think the fastest quarter mile I've ever ran is about 7 seconds. And I thought my heart was still back on the starting line somewhere. And how those guys do it is a whole nother thing. I mean, I think they hold their breath. I really do. I think they just hold their breath for 3 seconds and make their pass. I think that's what they do. It's incredible. Incredible.
And
Yeah.
I thought I had the corner on the market at the San Mateo Bridge.
Well, I mean, Ben's got a 599, and I promised him I
Not
would beat him. I I promised him I'd meet him at 3 in the morning and take him out for a test run.
My car was sleeping at 3 in the morning.
My horse is eating hay.
Well, I know a hot wire guy, I don't know. Put him back by 4. Any other questions, you guys?
And that will conclude our luncheon presentation for this month, June 10th. Don't forget, that is the second Wednesday in June this time. We'll be talking about the Mille Miglia in China. Thank you.